Ladies and gentlemen, welcome from sunny Georgia. My name is Valeria and I am a project manager in past. So there is a question. What is the connection between the project manager and the off-road rank channel? To make it clearer for you, I will tell you about my relatively recent past. I received a good upbringing and education as an economist. For 4 years, I worked in international telecommunication and high technology companies. I started with the position of an assistant to the director of the department. I worked in that company for a year and a half and left because the company didn't imply fair professional development of women. It also didn't imply truly senior positions by persons whose nation and citizenship were different from nation and citizenship from the owners of the company. That is, it was a full-fledged ethnocentric type of company. In addition, the company actively tried to take advantage of my relatives and acquaintances in order to gain advantage in contracting. But when I started working there, I hadn't even graduated from the university and was a naive student. So I didn't understand for a while that I was being used. It was extremely strange for me to hear proposals that I shouldn't take any efforts and drink coffee. They would do everything for me and I would be given a bonus based on the result of a quarter. I wanted to take real part in project management, understand processes and have influence on decision making. But I didn't understand my responsibilities and role in the department, and I had misunderstandings with management about it. Moreover, some of my colleagues looked at me with contempt. They thought I got this job through connections, although I had internship there twice while studying at university. And it was even before they started working there. Everything fell into place when the company made a contract behind my back with customers I worked for with more than 6 months. And after a short time, I left, despite the fact that I was offered promotion, because I understood that I would never have received a real influence. To my huge luck, my job in that company and my attitude to people and things were noticed by partners. The company did business with them and took consultations from them. So, even before my official leaving from the company, I was offered a trial period for further working. It was an international high technology company with ideally built business processes, with professional engineers, managers, HRs. Top management realized the hidden potential of a person, and each employee was offered dozens of surveys in order to work in those projects that were most suitable for further employee self-realization and for implementation of large projects. So every employee was in his place, and thanks to this, team gave a synergistic effects, doing a job by 200% and bringing new customers. At the same time, thanks to complex, versatile job and support of my colleagues, I became interested in engineering. I visited server rooms and data processing centers. I monitored the operation of various models. I began to study the structure of computers and operating systems. In my free time, I took up soldering and radio electronics. I bought tools for studying various mechanisms. In addition, the classic way to rest in the company was hiking from 60 to 130 kilometers over the weekend. Physical work in forest, sleeping in tents, and cooking on fire. And all of that without any alcohol, tobacco, or psychoactive substances. With professional equipment in almost complete safety with professional survivors instructors. Moreover, one of the types of activities was carrying out humanitarian missions at the own request of employees, on their own or in foreign groups under international agreements with the company. A person could leave for 3 months, for example, to Africa to help fight diseases, or to explore the big garbage patch, or to any part of the world in various researches and scientific expeditions. And sometimes the company I worked for was a sponsor of these expeditions. This pastime was a great vacation for employees because it included a serious change of activities and environment. People got new experience and impressions, which are often lacking in usual life. For many people, such impressions are generally inaccessible in principle because they don't have the opportunity to experience them. All these expeditions, travels and hikes were considered carefully, including physical and psychological condition of a person, thus helping in further comprehensive development. All these expedition trips were developed in details, including schedule, work plan, accommodation conditions, logistics. And when I started working there, part of my job was organization of delivery of people and goods as a part of our expeditions. It allowed me to watch various types of transport, and I became interested in complex and unique types of transport customized for specific tasks. There were lots of sport utility vehicles and off-road cars, which were the main means of transportation of our people by land. It was much more convenient to get to the point of destination in forests, fields, mountains, or deserts by serious cars. Of course, we had other types of transport, such as motorcycles, yachts, speedy boats, helicopters, airplanes, jet skis, and others. For now, these types of transport are too complicated and expensive for me to deal with, so I will start with off-road vehicle. Jeep were ideal for any tasks. They are reliable, relatively easy to maintain, and easily customizable. That's why Jeep was the main brand of cars in our company. Of course, they needed repairs after trips. And as an active and curious person, I started to visit the garage as entertaining and broaden my horizons, despite the fact that I had very little free time due to my active life. It swallowed me up, so one day I stopped being just an observer. It appeared to be so breathtaking that I started to clean engines and worked with drive shafts. Moreover, I got a truck license in addition to my B license. Unfortunately, due to the lack of time, I didn't receive a license for driving motorcycles, but I remember about it. Unfortunately, due to the series of sad events connected not only with lockdown, but with the war in Ukraine, the company that gave me such strong impetus for self-realization and for self-development and such invaluable experience had to stop its activity and quit its business. And to quit it not only in public, in official way, but taking health and lives of many employees. And while I was in a great sadness from happened and decided what I should do, a person appeared in my life, the one I was working for at my previous place of work. So while I was in great sadness from happened and decided what I should do next, a person appeared in my life, the one I was working for at my previous working place. He suggested me a high position in a very developed country. Conditions of this job were like a fairy tale. I didn't want to miss an opportunity to develop company's business and a chance for further self-development. I promised to do my best and not to let down this person. He had seemed to me a responsible professional. I completely trusted this person from a large Asian country. I was free and opened new horizons. My previous work ended in a sad way. Another chapter of my eventual life ended. I decided to open a new page. I sold what I had. I took with me one large suitcase of clothes. I took a large tourist backpack which helped me a lot of time during expeditions and trips. I took gifts from my friends as a keepsake and left to an intermediate point of destination. It turned out to be Turkey, as after analysis, Turkey seemed to be the most suitable country to be vaccinated and to get working visa simultaneously and quickly, and after that to get to East Asia in the shortest way. But everything turned out not as simple as it seemed to me in my little bit rose-colored glasses. Vaccination turned out to be the most easiest step, but there were big problems for getting working visa for this fairy tale job. After a few weeks after my arrival, my employer decided to redirect me to another country. I wouldn't say that it was desired action or I would like to do it, but I agreed. So conditions of getting visa extremely changed. As time went on, I had to be actively involved in all stages of getting visa. I translated hundreds of papers into 3 languages. I tried to get all seals, stamps and approvals. I visited governmental bodies and consulates. Some of them almost didn't work after lockdown. Some of them were just inaccessible for citizens of other countries. And for some reason, all expenses fell on me. Of course, I kept all the receipts and confirmation in the hope of a refund after employment, as it's customary in normal countries. Also, when working with this person, the expenses were refunded by the company. But then I found out what medical examination for the employment to this country included and how many doctors I had to visit. I understood that it might take another 3 or 4 months and dozens of thousands of dollars more. To get visa to this country, I had to be the healthiest person in the world. I had to pass all examination for all diseases and viruses that exist. I realized that I need full support from company. Also, as I'm a human, I began to get tired from constant struggle with red tape. But when I reported this to the employer, trying to get information and solve issues, I started to face incomprehensible conditions, slow responses, and inability to influence anything. It was very strange because, based on my experience, employees of large companies could get visas within a few days. And after a short time, my employer complained that I wasn't working yet, despite the fact that I offered to start work even earlier in a remote format, because people around the world have worked like this more than 20 years. Nevertheless, he referred to the top management trying to avoid responsibility. In the end, he just stopped communicating with me, ignoring my numerous calls and messages. I was left with half-formed documents, with signed papers from my side, with a half-empty wallet, and no hope of a promised fairy tale job. Of course, there were no one to apologize and compensate for my expenses, despite the fact that I spent more than $25,000. Moreover, all the papers were drawn up in such a way that the company remained innocent and didn't bear any responsibility. And all of that happened with me, although I knew this person and this company for 5 years and worked for them. It was the fictitious company. Someone might say, you had to receive guarantees from them first. Which guarantees? Wasn't it enough to receive an invitation from a person I knew for 5 years? Wasn't it enough that I had business trips with this person and met his main customers while working for him? It's a big company, and sometimes you are nothing for them and you are not able to take an advantage. I don't know how many people they fooled like that, and I cannot imagine. I also cannot imagine how many companies like that are general in the world. I cannot imagine how many people try to change their lives by trusting their time and money to internationally recognized brands. And after all, they lose everything, including destroying their families and relationships with loved ones. Well, I would lie if I say I felt happy and relaxed. It was very difficult for me to accept the situation I was in. I was fooled with a job. I spent a lot of money to get this job. I didn't know the language of a country I was in. I simply didn't have a foundation to rely on. I was in panic because everything I tried to build was destroyed and I wasn't able to influence it. At the same time, I met a man who fell in love with me. He was very nice, attentive, and generous. He gave me emotional support in my difficult situation and promised all kinds of supports that were possible from his side. I was tired and disappointed. No wonder that I fell under his spell. And I trusted him. He promised me a house by the sea, holidays throughout the country, citizenship, and my own restaurant and a beauty salon. But when it really came to financial support and to my active actions, it turned out that the first thing he needed from me is a wedding and children. And in his plans, I had to give him 5 children. But first of all, I wasn't ready for it physically and mentally at all. I wanted to rebuild my career and business. And secondly, I realized that no one knows whether I would really have a restaurant or a business salon, and when it could happen, or where it's just sweet talks in the sake of procreate. Our interests completely ceased to converge when it turned out that I must first fulfill his requirements, and I remained with promises. With difficulty, but with confidence, I had to live, despite hesitation due to my feelings and affection. So, during this time, I was deceived twice. I realized the world's not a pretty place at all, where you can set an illusionary goal and easily come to billions of dollars, expensive cars and yachts, like in social networks. I realized that all these pictures are well-planned businesses and someone's funded projects. And an ordinary person who has ambitious principles, doesn't want to rob people and to go to bed for money, cannot count on a wizard on a helicopter. He can count on no one but himself. And it doesn't mean at all that after years of wear and tear, he would live the life that he dreamt of. I understood that I had several ways. The first one, to think to the bottom, disappointed in life, and after a while to lose meaning and pleasure altogether. The second one is to get a regular stable job, preferably with constant overtime in exchange for endless motivation. To work there all my life and perhaps also not to see the point in it. And the third one, to try again to change my life, face difficulties, failures, falls, but to live an interesting, colorful life and perhaps to change someone else's life better. I chose the third way. I took a deep breath. I took myself under control. I didn't despair. And I was able to do it mostly thanks to the support of my old friends and my new friends I made in Turkey. It was much easier to cope with difficult situations I was in thanks to their support in all matters. Sometimes almost unfamiliar people said a few good words for me. And they had no idea how much they helped me. I also remembered how much engineers and managers supported me at my previous place of work. And I decided to think about returning to what I did earlier and developing in this area. Moreover, from the other side, I wasn't tied to a place or things. People didn't depend on me, so I could take a breath, think, and move on, despite broken plans and heart. I soon realized that there were no needs in specialists of my level in this country, regardless of language, gender, length or brevity of CV. And it seemed to be impossible to be hired within a few weeks, regardless the location, because of the economic recession and the incipient labor crisis due to the war in Ukraine. However, it didn't mean at all that I wasn't able to support myself in any way. I began to look for possibilities to continue developing in technician sphere and to study off-road market. I wanted to study and to work in Jeep's field, so I was looking for people I could learn something interesting from. But I was more careful and selective in acquaintances after my adventures, of course. Unfortunately, I was lucky only partially and only twice. The first time I met a mind-like person who lived in mountains, engaged into off-road repairs and production of spare parts. Thanks to him, I improved my skills in mountains. I also saw how a workshop with equipment might look like. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to hire me. I understand it, and I'm thankful for the experience, for teaching me how to drive along narrow paths, for showing me incredible purity and beauty of mountain lakes and waterfalls, for trusting me his garage and workshop, because for such people, garage is their second home. The second time, I was next to the monster Jeep in the workshop for a week. Unfortunately, there was almost no work done, but I was able to see another way of furnishing the office, to look under the hood little bit, and to study the business strategy on the internet. Also, I was able to went once for tools and parts and observed some of the part supplies in the city where I was located in. But soon I discovered that some of the employees of that company were abusing drugs. It went totally against my ideas about responsible work, industrial safety, and communication between people. I had to say goodbye very quickly and very carefully to my new acquaintances. I believe that it was unsafe and unpredictable for me to stay in the workshop among equipment because of their hobbies. And what did I do next? As I said earlier, despite my unique experience and agile mind, my skills were not in demand in this country. Especially given the fact that I am a woman, the professional development in Turkey was hardly possible. But I didn't give up and looked for new ways for myself. I was studying labor markets in other countries. At the same time, I was trying to find any part-time job and a place to live. The lack of work, money, and knowledge of the Turkish language didn't allow me to rest carelessly in the midst of the tourist season. I am infinitely grateful to my friends and acquaintances who provided me with a temporary overnight stay and supported me financially during that time. I am very thankful that they still believe in me and hope that I will return finances spent on me as soon as I have the opportunity. So, while looking for a job, I needed temporary income. I began to go to hotels and restaurants and offer my services in cleaning rooms, serving guests, caring for flowers and plants in exchange for money and accommodation. Of course, I wasn't able to stay with any acquaintances from Turkey because it's not a usual situation for men and a woman to stay in one room without implying too much. And after a few days and dozens of hotels and restaurants, one restaurant manager allowed me to work for him, and one restaurant employee allowed me to live at your apartments. And I'm very thankful to them because thanks to them I had a roof over my head and the possibility to understand the situation I was in. Since I actively met and communicated with people, I made friendship with a man from a hot eastern country. We had good relationships. We shared different thoughts with each other. I told him some of my adventures. After he came back home, we continued to communicate. And he offered me a job in the Emirates, saying that his friends owned a business there. I agreed to consider this option, but I didn't consider it as an only one, because I had a negative experience behind my back, so I didn't want to find new problems. We began to communicate by video with my potential employer. And it turned out that he was just going to open a company there, and it seemed suspicious to me. I wasn't able to check the reality of a business or activities. And it was strange that I was offered a high position in the company that hadn't been opened yet. Moreover, there was a fact that no one really was interested in my professional skills and experience. Also, I didn't understand the process of getting a work visa. In some countries, you need to give your passport to agencies upon arrival to register your stay in the country. And I didn't want to lose my passport and to end up in slavery. This problem is relevant and widespread, but it is hushed up and not discussed by governments. Therefore, girls often think that such kind of situation will definitely not happen to them. When I started to voice my doubt to my friend, he began to invite me to his country, promising to rent an apartment and to show sights of the country. But I would feel much safer if I didn't have to go to an unfamiliar country with unknown laws. As a result, our communication reduced to his insult to me. He considered that he had great influence on my fate, and as my friend, he knew better than me what I need to do and how a woman should live. By coincidence, at the same time, his mother found 3 brides for him, so he considered that he became a handsome prince, and a fierce struggle must now be waged. And after such opinion about me and insults addressed to me, although there were no reason for them, I stopped getting in touch, although he tried to contact me another 6 months. As a smart person, I kept another job options in mind, so I wasn't upset because of that unreliable option. I tried to let go of the situation quickly and accepted another job offer. It was more formal and had a larger transparency as it had seemed to me for that time. It was a quite interesting offer to work as a manager in a company in the field of gambling. It was totally different from what I had done before, and that's why it became interesting to me. One of its offices located in Georgia, that is not far away from Turkey. But it depends, because from Ankara to Tbilisi is around 1,500 kilometers. So I accepted manager's job offer. I took my 25 kilogram suitcase, my 25 kilogram tourist backpack, which experienced these times more moves than in their entire lives. And I set off on a new, promising, as I thought at that time, trip. And here again, I am grateful to my friends for the fact that upon my arrival to Georgia, they not only provided me with a long-term support, but also taught me mutual respect and value of relationships. At the beginning of my work, I had ambitious goals. I studied intensively. I analyzed the work of company in order to understand what I could do in addition to the duties that were assigned to me. I asked many questions that related not only to my direct tasks, but to understanding of characteristics of the business as a whole. I communicated with different employees from different departments. Unfortunately, the low level of transparency, the poor level of development of a company, a shortnesses of management, an absence of well-organized business processes, and the criminal orientation of a company, which was revealed during training and my analysis of information, didn't allow me to continue my work after probationary period, although I even talked personally with top management and co-owners of the company about the need for strategic changes that would not only direct the business of a company into legal direction and build business processes, but also increase profits by optimizing processes and shifting employees' priorities. So, I had to leave a company disappointed in how people treat other people, but honest with myself. For some reason, a number of my former colleagues took my word personally, believing that I was complaining about them or their work on the department, or accusing them of incompetence or inability to keep their word. But my words only applied to top management, because I wasn't interested in my speedy promotion or a bonus at the end of the year or going over people's heads. I was interested into improving process of our business and changing the strategy as a whole. And this is a task of top management that should be addressed to them. Such proposals shouldn't go through those in departments, because each time it would change the wording and lose the meaning due to indifference, fear, or misunderstanding of my plan by employees. Did it turn out that I was again without job and prospects? Yes and no. Yes, I was without a job. But we are the only ones who create prospects for ourselves. And I already knew what I would do next. And you will find out in the new videos what exactly I will do, which way I will realize it, how much money I need for it, and where I will get them from. I suppose that you have already understood from my story that I am not a typical blogger with billion budgets, and I am not someone's commercial project. I also would like to say all couch experts that comments under my videos are open to you. But I hope that before you write something, you yourself will try to change the world for better. I hope, to some extent, I took off rose-colored glasses from you. So, likes, dislikes, subscriptions, comments, and any other active support and feedback are welcome from you. All the best and see you soon.